Listen to me carefully, brother. Our main character beat the game 19 times, but on the 20th run, he went overboard and spent months grinding like a maniac in the starting area. He took the character to level 9999, the ultimate peak, before the main story even began. But the moment he pressed play on that cursed game, he was trapped inside by a twist of fate. But unfortunately, not with that godlike strong character. He woke up as the game's main antagonist, the Demon King. The worst part is, he hasn't just lost those invincible powers. His power has bottomed out, and those bloodthirsty generals under him want his head because they know their boss is weak. His only consolation is having a six-armed blonde beauty by his side, one who looks a bit more youthful. But the big question is this. How will a demon king with zero power survive against a hero of godly strength and the fury of his own army? Here's the answer: farming. I know it sounds like total nonsense, but listen for a second. This guy finished this word-like game 19 times. He knows every detail by heart. Also, the system offered him a secret path. The happier and more prosperous the demon army is, the stronger the demon king becomes. Theoretically, he should be a sweetheart, shouldn't he? Oh my god, this main character is a total pain in the neck. What they did to that poor low-level guy. It's the most disrespectful, most despicable thing I've ever seen in any manga. Without further ado, let's dive into this madness. His name is Jang Cheol. What a cursed name. Until yesterday, he was an ordinary student living in Korea, or at least that's what he thought. He has transformed into Kratos, the Demon King, the final boss of the game Bloody Paladin. It's a total cliché, isn't it? And their mission is to wake the sleeping hero. So, it's kind of like a male Cinderella story. But right then, a problem arises. The steward bursts in and calls out to Kratos. The Zephyros has arrived, announcing that war preparations are complete. And outside, there's an army of demons screaming their heads off. Prince of Blood Azurette. Level 534. He's there too. Beside him, Ice Monarch Sergi and Archduke of Shadows Hartog stand ready. Hartog is also the head butler. And of course, that classic muscle-bound guy standing in front of them all. Level 539. Kratos calls out to everyone and asks them to listen to the army. As the Lord of all demons, he has something very important to say. They're putting this war on hold. Because they need to focus on harvesting the crops immediately. And of course, they need to raise livestock. The demon army looks at each other in confusion. Then things get messy. They say it's complete madness. But the Demon King gives them such a deadly look that they all go dead silent. There's a logical reason why he didn't start the war, of course. Right then, a notification pops up in front of you. Someone is starting a new round of the game for the 20th time. A level 9999 psycho covered in old kimchi. Kratos knows for certain he'll die at this man's hands. That's the moment he reveals his ace. I'm a graduate of the farming department at Korea University, and I became a rich farmer. I'm serious. He was one of the best in his field. It was so good, even professors had him write their theses. That bald professor asked for help with the project again. And when he went to the fields, of course people expected him to work like a farmhand. The truth is, all that talent only made him the #1 slave. What kind of accursed life was this? Despite all his talent, others got all the credit at the end of the day. It screams with the desire to kill all those bastards inside. Dopamine levels are hitting rock bottom. That was the moment he decided. You needed some excitement in your life, didn't you? And what could be better than an old-school video game? He wanted to experience that feeling. That thrill of achieving something they truly desire. Here's the first person in the world to finish this game. And the person who finished it 19 times ended up like this. Now he says it was worth it, even if his battery is dead. And yes, it really is very powerful. Now, he decides to play Wave 20 on held difficulty. First, he had to get everything to the max level. After months of grinding, the character reaches the peak. And the equipment on him looks, well, a bit strange. But by the looks of it, they're definitely at a godlike level. Standing there, wondering how many years have passed. The guy is really focused. It's asking if you want to start the game. He says, of course, and clicks without hesitation. But this time, the monitor starts glowing. And it's like something's pulling him in all of a sudden. His soul leaves his body and gets vacuumed into the TV. As he glides through the sky, he sees a forest below. And my friend is like, what on earth is this? Okay, I need to stay calm. I know this is just my soul. So even if I fall, I probably won't die. When I spot the life tower on the corner, the penny drops. No way, he's actually entered the world of Paladin. Excited to see the character he created, he flies to the graveyard. Because he knows the aged Kimchi is there. But he's shocked when he comes face to face with that blonde guy holding a staff. Why does the character look so terrible? Suddenly his soul takes a sharp turn and is swept elsewhere. No, this can't be. Anything can happen, but never this. The cries of our miserable souls, bridge burning in agony, reach the heavens. And by a cruel twist of fate, he opens his eyes in the massive, cursed body of the demon king Kratos. I'm probably the only one who'd blow the chance to save the world just because the hero costume's tacky. While he laments, the seemingly loyal but snake-like Zephyrus listens to the treacherous whispers swirling in the shadows. The demons are gossiping that our boss is all washed up, a shadow of his former self. That pale, vampire-looking guy immediately pitches the coup plan and calls for an alliance. They say let's take his head and the throne is ours, but that cautious guy Hartog is chicken. What if he's faking it? He's trembling that the four of us might get crushed under that throne. As for Sergei, he's acting like a total coward, passing the buck by saying he'll only come if Azeroth jumps into the fire first. If you've noticed, he doesn't care if the world burns. His stomach is so empty his brain has stopped working. Then that troublemaker among them jumps out and asks if they'd have the heart for this betrayal if he proves the Demon King has truly lost his power. That's the moment that sneaky, nauseating smirk spreads across all their faces. If that's the case, we're in, they say, reaching a literal devil's bargain to let blood be shed. Zephyrus, the snitch recording everything on the corner, rushes straight to our fake Kratos. Hey, my dear Demon King, word is your generals have gathered and are counting down the days to pull your plug. The mockery in his voice doesn't go unnoticed as he says they think your power is gone and they're planning to sever that majestic neck from your body. Ours starts shaking like a leaf out of fear, of course. If 4 generals attack me at once, they'll crush me, and my name will be erased from history, he thinks. If he looks weak, he'll die. If he fights, he's dead for sure. The guy is in a total dead end. But the question really bugging him is, what happened to that damn hero? Didn't you enter his body? Or is the poor soul just a corpse in a corner now? And starts coming up with paranoid theories on their own. Right then, Zephyros plays a recording from his orb and shoves it in his face. The images are coming from that famous cemetery, and the scene is not pleasant at all. A blonde brat is mowing down demons like chaff. He even gouges a creature's eye out with his bare hands. The level of brutality is stomach-churning. As that psychopath stares straight at the camera with bloody hands, Kratos realizes the soul inside that body is definitely not normal. It carries pure madness. If he steps out of the castle, the generals will spot his weakness and jump him. If he stays inside, he'll burst with fear. If he escapes to the human world, that level 9999 monster will eat him alive. The poor man starts sobbing uncontrollably out of despair. I logged into this game to find some peace, and while I'm whining about what's happened, a strange fire of determination suddenly ignites in his eyes. Thinking that maybe he can calm these savages by solving the hunger issue first, he puts his most ridiculous strategy into action. When His Majesty Zephyros asks where he's going, out of old habit, he tries to apologize for leaving without notice. A total loser move. When he says he's looking for land to farm, Zephyros looks at him like he's seen an alien. Even the Demon King himself isn't actually sure what he's doing. Zephyros couldn't resist and called them out, saying, "You used to be so arrogant, what's with this sudden kindness?" Kratos notices how strange this is but doesn't let it show. Actually, this Zephyros was too insignificant to even be an extra in the story. He was one of those types who show up once only to get one-shot by the hero. Still, this sneaky bastard gained weird popularity among readers just because he apologized for being weaker than the Demon King as he died. People admired this loyalty a subordinate had for his lord, even I said, "Good for him," while reading it, but I wish I hadn't. Now, all she does is nag me to death. She keeps nagging that it's the first time she's seen a Demon King lose his charisma so fast. Kratos tries to square up and act tough, but Zephyros doesn't give a damn. "Knock it off and tell me about that farm business." Just vibing in his mood. He cuts her off, saying if you're talking about this area, you should have known already. But Kratos just dismisses it, saying not even grass could grow here. He brags about how these might be dead lands, but with his skills, he'll turn them into paradise. Then he suddenly collapses to his knees. It's as if he's about to worship the ground itself. He takes a handful of soil, puts it in his mouth, and starts chewing. God, how embarrassing. Zephyros immediately takes out his notebook and starts taking notes. Unfortunately, the Demon King has lost his mind. Right now, he's busy eating dirt with gusto. Even though Kratos yells, "Stop writing, damn it! It's all in vain." Zephyros is quite serious. "This is my job, sir. I must record every detail, especially since our Lord has lost his mind," he says, making fun of it. Kratos ignores him and spits out the mud in his mouth. There are no nutrients at all in the soil. Nitrogen levels, vital for plants, are below zero. Nitrogen is plenty in the air, but it's useless unless it gets into the soil. When humanity solved this, it sparked the agricultural revolution. Now it's my turn. A flash of inspiration strikes Kratos. Lightning is the quickest way to fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. And as luck would have it, our Demon King's main power is lightning. He prepares to cut his hand and shed blood immediately. He's trying to activate that legendary blood strike. But wait a second. This technique was last triggered when the hero died, right? After telling Zephyros to back off, he cuts his hand, but how can it hurt so much? It blows my mind how that crazy hero used his skill as easily as snacking on nuts, despite all this pain. Right then, he feels a cold breath on his neck and turns around. The whole general staff is there, watching him with pity as if to say, "Is this our king?" Kratos jumps in fear. "Have you seen Zephyros?" She's definitely confirming that he's lost weight. Ours is terrified, asking, "Have you traitors come to kill me too?" But then he roars, "Enough already!" When the fear of death outweighs the cut on his hand, he releases the blood strike with all his might. But instead of the expected grand explosion, he only soaks the earth with his own blood as his vision fades from pain. It's totally pathetic. A mocking voice rises from behind. "Lord Kratos, you don't seem like yourself today. I hope everything's alright." That's the moment he realizes these bastards have already signed his death warrant. But at that very moment far away, the real hero is preparing to take the stage. Jang Cheol stands right in the middle of this cursed cycle. His mind is filled with nightmares of past lives, and he feels it in his bones that he's walked this path over 10 times. He used to carry that sacred burden known as the call of duty. But whatever it was, it's gone now. And yet, he realizes he doesn't have a single reason left to live. While you're just staring into space, things are getting messy for Kratos. Because the whole group has their eyes on him. Azurat steps forward, questioning if he's truly that legendary Demon King. That being, the strongest of all lords? Inside, Kratos is screaming. Because the power of the man before him is at an inconceivable level. And right now, he's too scared to use even a single ability. Azurat stares, muttering that this spreading pressure is unreal. The fight hasn't even started yet, but he's gathered so much energy they think his body's shaking. Yet the poor thing is trembling with fear. Yet he's not backing down. "You think you can take on all 4 of us?" But when he looks back, he sees the other 3 traitors already hiding behind a tree. Turning around, Kratos realizes the painful truth. He was left all alone in this hell. Everyone watches from a safe distance, hinting she should have realized by now how hopeless the situation is. He's in deep trouble. Because he has no one to watch his back in this war. We are all demons. He's trying to say we should help each other. But they're smugly like, "Of course we're demons. It's our nature." They're in a mood. Right then, Zephyrus takes out a projector and explains through diagrams that, by demon law, these duels must be to the death. There's no turning back. Azurat, who was just about to wet himself with fear, suddenly turns serious and decides he needs to focus. He thinks the Demon King is weakening. Kratos is trembling with fear, his mind racing with 1,000 different schemes. What to do? What to do? What to do? The guy just tested his power, and he did that last move so easily that he thinks it's impossible for him to be weak. But before he can even finish his thought, Azurat pounces on him with a battle cry. Kratos suddenly remembers. This guy's only got 2 tricks. It'll either slash sideways or stab forward. Even if he thinks escape is impossible, his body moves by reflex and dodges the attack. She's a bit surprised but realizes the guy is still falling for the same old stale tricks. Whenever his foot points forward, he follows up immediately with that straight attack. Kratos dodges this move with a slide and flings himself backward. Hartog mutters how terrifying it is that he can escape so easily. If he'd made a millimeter of error, his arm would have been torn off. One more attack, one more escape. Kratos now makes it clear that all moves are just like in the game. She remembers how hopeless things were when she first met this man. It was fast, full of feints, constantly shifting directions and using countless attack variations. After dying once, twice, 3 times, then 10, and finally 128 times, he finally started to figure it out. On his 19th full playthrough, he tried to defeat it without taking a single hit. And now, in this real battle, yes, he's already cracked the code. This guy doesn't stand a chance of landing a single hit on him. The demons lurking behind nearby bushes watch nervously as he rolls around grinning. Now they're certain, the Demon King hasn't lost any of his power. He's just playing with poor Azurat like a cat plays with a mouse. While Azurat seethes with rage at his inability to respond, Kratos weighs the situation. Maybe I can't take this giant down. But I'm definitely not dying. At that fateful moment, when he realizes the rules of the game apply here too, the system whispers in his ear. It shows you've started to grasp how this world works. Kratos recognizes this notification instantly. Just like a pop-up straight out of a Webtoon system. He congratulates him for dodging attacks through pure focus and rewards him with something only playable characters can have. Target selection unlocked. When he sees that little green sign, he knows exactly what it means. That's the sacred gauge required to ignite a special ability. Without a second of hesitation, he lunges forward to activate Blood Strike, and this time, it works. It fries poor Azurat with an electric blast. The man drops to his knees, his entire body trembling violently, while the other demons watch in slack-jawed shock. Kratos is shocked that Azurat is still alive and standing despite all that. Because this skill would always one-shot everything in the game. So he thinks he needs to land another blow just to be safe. This time, he definitely has to go. The surrounding demons whisper in terror. Oh my god! He's using only a tiny fraction of his power to avoid killing Azura instantly. He isn't killing him on purpose, just so he can make him suffer more. Yet meanwhile, he has no clue how he's going to send Kratos' man to his grave. The system's beeping, but all it's saying is that Azurat's clothes are gone and the guy is butt naked. At least this unlocks a new system feature. Armor removal activated. Opening their inventory to look at the equipped gear. They're all there, but he's ignoring them for now. Because the number one priority is to eliminate Azurat. The problem is, it doesn't have enough damage power to finish him off. Then he comes up with a brilliant idea. Now that Azurat is flat on the ground, I can give him another taste of lightning. The impact will transfer directly into the soil and produce the nitrogen it needs. Honestly, this guy is a total devious genius. The other demons are lurking behind the trees, trembling with fear. Kratos calls out to Serpi and orders her to wrap up the poor tax collector. The poor girl is trying to understand why the man went so far to humiliate his opponent. But no, the Kratos guy literally crucifies him and stands him straight up. And there we go, our perfect lightning rod is ready. Then Azura's eyes suddenly pop wide open. It screams that your immortal body is healing. Poor guy thinks the Demon King has weakened just because he's still breathing. What a great folly. But his excitement is cut short as a new bolt hits him, instantly shutting him up. As the atmosphere slowly fills with nitrogen, Kratos Hartoga orders the entire region covered in a dense, blinding fog. As moisture in the air turns to rain, Hartog is stunned. He wonders if it's raining just so the lightning will hurt more. Increasing conductivity to multiply the pain? Honestly, our horizons for creative torture techniques expanded once again today. The mist falls, droplets land on Ashura's body, and boom. Another lightning bolt is striking down just in time to rip your heart out. Every time Kratos cuts himself to use his ability, he winces in pain. Zephyros and the others freeze, watching this madness. While everyone else's skin is crawling, our psychopath protagonist is over there having a field day. The soil will be soaked in nitrogen, and the harvest will be legendary. With lightning dancing on the horizon, he dreams of future bountiful harvests. After that, he digs at the soil to check, and yes, things are going exactly as planned. But there's a problem, the soil particles are too fine. To open those pores, you must add that perfect, genuine ingredient. To the fertilizer, of course. He orders his men to bring a giant pile of feces right away. The men in the blood are in shock. They look at each other in horror, wondering if they're really going to pour manure on poor Ishira. Deep in the forest, as Kimchi walks, he hears a cry for help. When he turns his head to look, the sight is pure comedy. Standing before him are cheap knockoff versions of Javier and Lloyd. This branch says they were attacked by Lloyd's goblins. But Kimchi gives them such a look that they both start trembling. The man is begging, claiming he's not a suspect. I mean, is it even possible not to look suspicious in those clothes? Adam is literally shouting that he's a one-of-a-kind. Fake, when Javier's leg is hurt, he puts him on his shoulder, and tells the other defective Lloyd to show the way. They introduce themselves as Riva and Buled. One's a backward spelling, the other's just adding letters. Creativity is at an all-time low. Javier is asking who the blonde boy is. And he says that's exactly the mystery he's trying to solve. Back at the Demon King's castle, Hartog is brooding over where on earth they'll find and collect all that excrement. Serpini has no idea either, but her disgust at this foul request is clear as day. Ball is whining. He hasn't eaten in centuries. Plus, he's trying to get away with it by relying on the cliché that women don't use the bathroom. Hartog says that's not the point. He definitely won't use his own. We haven't sunk that low yet. The plan is simple but brutal. Beat the low-ranking demons until they wet themselves. A poor demon squats in the middle of the pit, straining in vain, his guts tied in knots from fear. When one of the soldiers reports a failure, Hartog steps in and asks what the problem is. The demon says they've been hungry for a long time and the castle is broke. Hartog gets angry and grabs the man by the throat. A brilliant idea strikes him, and he draws the knife. He was about to disembowel him when Ball grabbed his arm and stopped him. He's asking how we'll get the stuff if you rip his stomach open. Hartog is surprised. An unexpected spark of intelligence from Ball. The new plan is even worse. Making a man eat his own flesh just to jumpstart his digestive system. Even Ball is stunned by this madness. With the demon in the corner curled in a fetal position from fear, the two are about to clash. Then Kratos suddenly shows up on the scene. He strikes them both with lightning to bring them in line. And it reminds them that they aren't the only ones in the world who poop. Kratos, seated on his throne, begins the farming lesson by saying there's no waste without nutritional value. Our goal is to produce fertilizer. Zephyros doesn't have the slightest clue what fertilizer even is. Kratos explains. It's like a magical elixir, mixing wood, plants, eggshells, and whatever else to enliven the soil. But the real problem is, they have no trace of these materials. Cursed is poverty. He wants a map and has it in seconds. Just as he guessed, it's an exact match for the game's map. He remembers the flock of birds living in a certain area. Of course, these aren't cute birds, they're demon versions. There are so many of them that they drain all the nutrients from the soil. I mean, their production capacity is enormous. Since they live on the hills in the middle of the sea, it's a total gold mine. A poop mine. Zephyros drops the token. So he's asking in horror if we're going to pick up those demon seagulls' droppings. That damn place is called the Peak of No Return. You won't find a single branch to hold onto there. If you slip, you'll either be crushed on the rocks or the waves will drag you to hell. Kratos is already aware of this fact. He somehow managed to infiltrate this area where it's impossible for players to enter, and now, they're standing right in front of him. Everyone's stunned, wondering what kind of madness is going through this man's head again. Countless brave hearts perished defying those cliffs. And without exception, they all perished in the dark waters of the ocean. Kratos turns to them and sets off the bomb. He says he'll climb to the top and throw down bags of supplies. Everyone should be ready to catch them. If this crazy plan works, our stomachs will finally feast. Baal looks around and sees everyone is skin and bones. Their situation is truly deplorable. Thank goodness the farmer demon king finally graced us with his presence, giving us hope. Kratos was determined to make this climb on his 30th try. After hundreds of attempts, he finally cracked that critical secret. He jumps under everyone's gaze and clings to the rock. He's as sure of his success as his own name. Because he knows exactly how to use that in-game bug, that legendary glitch. Everyone's holding their breath as the hand is buried in the stone. Right then, Kratos opens his inventory and takes everything off. And suddenly, the whole crowd is face to face with the Demon King's bare butt. People are literally shaking from shock. But Sergi immediately turns his head away in shame. Getting dressed again and sticking to the wall like a maniac. The poor girl steals another glance. He can't believe his eyes. He's undressing again. Butt out. Then dressed. Then butt again. Then full body. Then the butt again. It just keeps creaking. Our hero has already solved that famous bug that breaks the game's physics engine. Mid-climb, he takes his gear off and puts it back on, slipping through walls like a ghost. Right then, that dummy honey gets all hyped up. If his master promised to feed everyone, then he must do his part as well. Poor guy feels responsible. Before I could even say stop, son, don't do it, this live wire jumps into the void and tries to stick to the wall. It's literally defying gravity. While Kratos asks in horror what this maniac is trying to do, the expected end arrives. And Ball hits the rock like a fly and gets crushed. Of course he can't hold on, he's clumsy. It's back on our long-suffering protagonist again. He has to catch Bale's hand midair. And still completely naked, passing through the wall due to a system glitch. But the real disaster is that Ball, the heaviest member of the group, is a total ox. When Kratos' arms reach the breaking point, his brain starts questioning. Why am I even saving this creature? The guy is one of the 4 great demons, for goodness sake. The guy's only goal in life was to kill you. Even Ball is in shock. He's staring at your face in shock, wondering why this sucker didn't just leave him. Right at that moment, a bitter memory curls into our hero's mind like a poisonous vine. The desperate pleas of an old friend ring in your ears. That kid was crying, saying he'd be a slave and his life would be ruined, screaming that his future was about to go dark over one single class and that he had to talk to the professor. That poor rookie was clinging to the hope that since you're on good terms with the professors, they'd do it if you asked because they like you. He was the type who followed you around like a loyal shadow. Our hero was the teacher's favorite back then, so the kid actually had a point. If he had said a word, maybe he would have saved that young man. But what did she do? He turned his back, saying, "Take care of yourself, this isn't my problem." He made that cold, selfish decision just to save face and keep things smooth with the teachers. But looking back now, that regret weighs heavy on your heart. He could have saved that child. Just like how he can save her now if he holds on a bit longer. Inside, he's roaring to himself. Go beyond your limits! Maybe this time he can finally throw that damn weight of the past off his shoulders. He gathers even the last sparks of strength left in him, just so that boy's dream from the past can finally find peace. Even if his arms are about to snap, he won't let go. And he manages to fling that massive demon upward in a single move. He's in terrible pain, of course, but he doesn't even notice the demons. Why did I go this far? Looks. Because this physical pain is much lighter than the spiritual agony of leaving another comrade behind. He never wants to feel that regret again. When that giant demon suddenly starts sobbing, Kratos starts thinking. If he had helped that day, maybe that student would have cried with joy too. But the past doesn't come back. All he can do is offer a silent apology to that child. And right in the middle of this emotional turbulence, that famous blue screen appears. The system congratulates him for unleashing such immense power without help from the Demon King's body. The drama's over, now it's time to level up. In the end, ours managed to win the appreciation of one of the 4 great demons, and the most genuine kind, too. But the real show is just beginning. Every move that pleases the demons will return to him as HP, those absurd happiness points. And the long-awaited moment, the happiness score system is officially live. Kratos was absolutely floored by this whole idea of collecting happiness points. What will he do with these points? What is he going to do, pickle it? Or is he going to a grocery store to buy a lollipop? But the system snaps back with an answer instantly. In your dreams, this isn't an amusement park. You couldn't expect a crazy game like this to just hand out candy anyway. Here's the thing. If one of his soldiers is full and happy, his house earns a point. Then he'll spend these points on stats like durability, defense, mental toughness, and magic power to upgrade his character, and he must max them all out to 100%. Only then will he reach the full world-crushing power of the real Kratos. This damn system is a total rip-off. It asked for 50 happiness points for 10% durability. Not only that, even upgrading a single skill cost a full 250 points. Kratos realized the difficulty of this immediately. But if he could somehow get that damn farm running, he had a chance to strike it rich. Besides, if he got stronger, his chances of surviving this hellhole would increase. Feeding people and making them happy? That was just the sweet part that stroked the ego. The narcissistic side of Kratos loved this idea. Bahal stood aside, thinking this man was a fool with a death wish. Maybe saving him was a mistake. Right then, Kratos stretched in a strange position as if he were a giant egg-laying chicken. With a manic gleam in my eyes, I asked if those below were ready for the disaster coming their way. Before the poor demons even knew what was happening, Kratos launched a massive turd bomb that arched over them like a rainbow. This was what real abundance looked like. Before long, the view was incredible. Everything was covered in dirt, eggshells, and mountains of manure. Kratos returned to the exhibit with a smirk. Since he had so many arms, this chopping business was perfect for him. The woman shouted in fury that she was the ruler of ice. His holy hands were not meant to play with filth. But Kratos' icy stare and calm threat silenced him instantly. If he didn't do it, he had a much worse task that would take the place of his scowl. Sergei had finally backed down and got straight to work. The inhabitants of this world were truly terrifying, and Sergei seemed like the toughest one. But it was fine, because the Demon King here was Kratos. She could handle everything with her pure, unshakable will. He ordered Hartog to flood the area to enrich the soil. Hartog tried to say the smell would be unbearable if the droppings got that wet. But with a single look from Kratos, he found himself in the air. He had no choice but to do as he was told. Kratos then turned to Bahal and asked if he was satisfied with the situation. Bahal, yes, the texture was just as soft as he said it would be. Step 3 was to gather feathers and cover it, but there was one big problem. The area was so vast that doing it with few people would take forever. There was no choice but to work all the demons in the city like slaves. Something deep inside bothered him, but now was not the time to stop. He had to look forward. As the ruler of this wretched land, he would exercise his authority to the fullest. Meanwhile, in the Demon King's city, in a miserable house, a little girl on her sickbed was pleading with her father. He was saying, "Please eat me, father." Oh my God, what kind of request was that? The father's heart was shattered. He begged his daughter to be silent. But the little girl was just saying that she missed her mother. It seems the mother had sacrificed herself in another gluttonous demon attack. He took one last look at his child before descending into the beast's belly so his daughter could live. In despair, the father wondered what reason he'd have left to live if his daughter were to go as well. Right at that dramatic moment, the Demon King appeared at the door. The guy jumped in fear and asked what the hell he came for. With his usual ruthlessness, Kratos ordered his soldiers to move out, shouting that if they had the energy to yell, they had the energy to work. The man wailed for his daughter, crying out that he had to see her, but it was in vain. The Demon King kept walking without even looking back. He asked how many people they'd gathered so far. There were 20 people, but we needed more than 30. As he looked back at that crying child, a flash of memory struck him. This kid was in the game too, and as always, he'd cut him down without a second thought. This moment caused a strange ache in his conscience, and he issued a new statutory decree. Demons were now forbidden from eating one another. Everyone was going to work in the fertilizer business. Kratos walked away, assuming the role of Tyrant Lord. He was muttering that some sacrifices were necessary to reach his goals. Under the scorching sun, the demons were already skin and bones. Right now, she was even more miserable because of that old hag. Someone was complaining about how ridiculous it is to be a farmhand. Their energy was spent, and they were using what little strength they had left on this filth. The other one warned him to shut up. But the rebel wouldn't stay silent. They were going to die anyway. So what were they going to plant in this fertile soil? Right then, Kratos emerged from the shadows and said he'd explain if she obeyed. During that great battle that day, a strange flower growing at the foot of a tree caught his attention. This was the cultivatable treasure. He showed the flower and declared that this was exactly what they would plant. Bahal and his team had already started packing up. The demon worker recognized the flower, but the thing wasn't edible. On the contrary, the food would cause stomach-piercing cramps. But Kratos pulled one from the dirt and reminded me there wasn't a damn thing else to eat in these lands. They had reached the final stage of the experiment. They would soon see firsthand whether it would work or not. The man asked what experiment you were talking about. In a cold voice, Kratos said that right now, his daughter survived by eating that flower. The man bolted in a panic. She was pleading with an innocent child, asking why they did this. He was praying his daughter hadn't taken that poison. He burst in as if to break down the door and found Bahal and his daughter there. But the worst had happened. The little girl had already swallowed that suspicious plant. The girl is over the moon, she's absolutely glowing. He says he feels like $1,000,000. Her father has a panic attack, asking if she's okay as if she drank poison. The little guy nods in agreement, admitting he actually devoured this same menu yesterday, and that Zephyros himself took the order. That's exactly when Kratos enters the scene and tells the man to believe him. It turns out people in distant lands have managed to process even poisonous plants to make them edible. Turns out these deadly tubers are actually called potatoes. It's hard not to be shocked when you hear what some people eat just to survive. With tears in her eyes, Flute is overwhelmed by such grace shown to someone as humble as herself. And finally, part of the army is experiencing the intoxication of having real food in their stomachs for the first time in their lives. Kratos scores a point for happiness. Ours looks at that one point he won and smiles at the girl, but in his mind is the fact of what a monster this runt was in the old version of the game. The gap between that terrifying creature of the past and the innocent girl of today is truly ironic. Being a demon lord doesn't require a frown, so with that famous, warm yet uncanny smile on his face, he tells the girl to grow up and get stronger. The other demons' minds work like poison. They're terrified, thinking the boss is fattening his daughter up to eat her. That innocent smile turned out to be a death notice. The poor things are shaking with fear. As this comedy of errors ends, the story takes us to the cursed region called Chavanid Entoir. This place is divided into 5 zones, like branches of hell. Freezing cold rains at night, and scorching heat by day. In these lands where crops commit suicide, even toxic plants are eaten as blessings. Normally everyone should have died off, but the human race has managed to survive like a stubborn cockroach. Back in the village, Flu's father is on his knees. He reports that preparations are complete. That's when our boss tells B to get out there and tear it up. The giant demon stomps through the field, crushing every potato and starting a literal mash festival. After that, these poor tubers will be left to their fate in the freezing cold. The freeze-thaw cycle will continue for 5 days. This torturous process will slowly turn the toxic tubers into an edible feast. With stomach cramps a thing of the past, Zephyros and his team are called up to boost fertilizer production. Snack prep is officially starting. Kratos addresses the lining up crowd. Supplies are low, so you can have 2 at most, or we're going to have a problem. Zephyros is confused, wondering why they didn't plant more in such a vast field when there's plenty of land. The boss explains that the stock is insufficient, and this job requires patience and strategy. First, he'll get people used to and hooked on the idea, then ramp up production 1,000-fold to dominate the market. As for the demons, they look suspiciously at what's on their plates. It's like they're holding a time bomb, not food. A voice from the back says his daughter ate it, and is still breathing, but nobody is convinced. Someone else steps up, shouts for everyone to look at the Demon King's face, saying that's not the look of a do-gooder, and there's definitely a catch. Yet one brave heart risks death and steps forward out of pure curiosity. The moment he bites into the potato, he bursts into tears and starts praising the Demon King. When they see the first victim didn't die, herd mentality kicks in, and everyone attacks, thinking we gave them something to eat. And at that moment, everyone raises their hands and starts shouting about how incredible Kratos is. Faced with this enthusiastic celebration, Kratos mutters that the cheering is a bit over the top and strange. They'll have to change that slogan soon. Zephyros is on the sidelines, thinking this man can actually end hunger. With their bellies full, Kratos adds a solid 51 happiness points to his household. It's finally time to level up. He's racking his brain over which feature would be most useful to focus on. While he is lost in thought, Zephyros gathers the farm team and sends them to the village to spread the word. Public announcement: every demon who hears real food is growing and comes to help will receive potato chips. Kratos realizes this little guy is actually smarter and more useful than he thought, and is impressed. And so, the potato harvest begins. Sergi slices the fertilizer, while Hartok moistens the soil. And yes, Per Ashrat is still standing there like a statue. Kratos wants them to slide it 10 steps to the left. The location is perfect. The insect fixed to the ground is struck once more by a lightning bolt descending upon it. Kratos sighs. He complains about how exhausting it is to go through this torture every day just to produce enough nitrogen. Enough was collected, but resources are still limited. It seems impossible to reach everywhere. While the boss plans, the criminal on the floor writhes in pain, begging for this nightmare to end. Kratos, unfazed, strikes down with another bolt of lightning. He needs workers who don't complain and work like robots. He needs soldiers who work non-stop without complaining. Maybe he'll have to wait for the next move. Deep in his memory, Kratos asked Zephyros that crucial question once again. Were the Star Lords truly summoned? Zephyros confirmed his master's concern. For now, he asked those supreme beings to stop the war and focus entirely on farming. But there was a massive problem. Not a sound from anyone. Kratos is starting to wonder if those damn messengers starved to death on the way. Because he needed help urgently. Spreading fertilizer across this vast land all by myself was a real chore, even for a demon lord. The scene slid into a deathly abyss. This was the region's first and most eerie spot. A demon spy, trembling, handed the latest scout reports to his master. Lord Kratos had unimaginably started an agricultural reform, producing edible food. The mustachioed demon chuckled, dismissing the situation. According to him, Kratos was acting this way because he was wetting himself with fear. Because every demon who died made Sarudala the Great, father of the dead, even more powerful. Kratos tried to prevent both sides from gaining power by stopping the war. Suratol asked in that dark voice. Have the envoys sent to the other regions been taken care of? The spy demon confirmed. No one knew about Kratos' devious peace plan. Dreams of ending the war had fallen apart. Suratol growled in dissatisfaction. Every demon should have to crawl from hunger. Only then could they all turn into fuel for his absolute power. Once he gathered enough power, he would rise as the one true demon lord. Fikamri summoned him at once and gave the order. Destroy everything Kratos built, especially those damn farmlands. On a night when the freezing cold chilled to the bone, Per Azurat was still hanging on the cross. Fikamri shuddered with horror as he passed by. This man called Lord Kratos was a total savage. To make an example out of him, he turned Azurat into a living scarecrow, a shriveled corpse. Yet she whispered it with pity. Don't worry, Azurat, Suratol will have terrible revenge. Then he summoned a ghost army and gave that devastating order to make the land unusable forever. The spirits rushed in screaming and found a massive, covered heap. One of them realized it was the famous fertilizer Kratos guarded like his own eye. Fikamir muttered with a devilish grin. Now this is wonderful. He ordered the filth to scatter everywhere and ruin Kratos' plans. Watching this scene out of the corner of his eye, a bolt of lightning struck Azurat's mind. He remembered what Kratos had said before. The fertilizer needed to be well mixed into the soil and fully dissolved. But they didn't have enough demons, they were all skin and bones. And now Fikamir, in a foolish drunken haze of victory, thought he had brought about Kratos' end. Azurat thought to himself for a second. This was officially the biggest free labor service history has ever seen. After a while, one of the ghost workers complained that the field never ended. The land was vast. The others yelled at him not to slack off, to bury and hide that filth everywhere, and to spread it out well. Kratos should never have been able to turn this place into a farm. Another soul sitting on the side commented on the situation. Soul Tag 2718 was outdoing itself today. The hard-working soul said he felt great, even if he didn't know why. It was that satisfying feeling of doing something useful. The friend next to him told him he was a complete idiot. But then he added, forget it, I want to be a fool today too. Let's level this damn place. While they celebrated how effective they were, the first rays of sun appeared on the horizon and began to vaporize them one by one. They were weak against sunlight. But to be honest, after doing something productive, dying didn't seem bad to them at all. As their small souls drifted to the sky, Fate came or wept behind them, crying out that his children had made it. They were the best, now they could fade away in peace. His only wish was to see the bruised look on Kratos' face when he witnessed this destruction. Harvested potatoes were stacked in the nearby warehouse. But the real challenge was making them edible. Kratos explained they're in sleep mode, won't grow if planted, and are basically like potatoes in a coma. And they grabbed them by the hair and forced them awake. At that moment, the potato looked like it had fainted from shock. Kratos knew that to break this dormancy, the potatoes had to be kept at 4 degrees for 2 or 3 weeks, then moved to a warm place. The problem was, he hoped for help from Sword-Eyed, but lately, the girl looked as if she were nauseated. He had no intention of working. Hartog didn't seem to look at his master with much admiration either. Kratos, knowing both were on the verge of rebellion, tried not to provoke them further. He tried to raise the temperature by forcing the team to do squats, but the poor demons were already exhausted. They all just collapsed where they stood. After weighing the situation, Kratos turned to Zephyrus and said they would go to the fields. He should have done his best, at least he could have injected some nitrogen into the soil. But when they reached the field, smoke was rising from everywhere. Kratos froze. What kind of disaster happened here? The soil was completely blended. The air was sharp, and the soil had reached the perfect texture for planting. What kind of divine miracle was this? Watching from the shadows, Fikemir was ecstatic. Complete success. Just then, Baylor appeared behind him and grabbed him by the ears. Rigo finds the sneaky guy hiding in a mouse hole and brings him in. Kratos recognizes him instantly, of course, after playing through so many games. He knows as well as his own name that this guy is one of Dead Club's real pain-in-the-neck bosses. Just as I'm about to ask what the hell you're doing here, poor Fikemir tries to open his mouth. But he takes a solid punch right to the face that shuts him up. Zephyros asks in surprise, "Why did you punch him before the man could even say a word?" Rigo shrugs, totally chill, looking suspicious. He's definitely up to something. He's playing it safe, taking them out beforehand. Fikemir, slumped over, mutters about how cruel the Demon King is. But he's just getting beat up, left and right. After a while, Kratos grows tired of beating the man. She couldn't get a single answer out of the guy, but would she give up? Never. He opens his inventory, dumps all his stat points into stamina, and goes right back to kicking ass. This is pure madness. Finally, Fikemir can't take it anymore and spills everything. Sarah gave the order, but it was to level the farm. Turns out it was him. That bastard Saratol blocked the reinforcements on purpose. Kratos figures it out instantly. The reason is simple. That guy gets stronger every time a demon dies. It's literally feeding on a corpse. Zephyros says excitedly that if we take Saruto down, it'll be an exemplary lesson for everyone. But does ours even care? His only concern is to grow potatoes peacefully in his field. They both remind me of that annoying truth at the same time. The most cursed thing about killing Sarutalu is that the guy turns into a ghost as soon as he dies. Hit it if you can, it's practically becoming impossible. On top of that, the map is super hilly with way too many hiding spots. It's a total cancer level. But Kratos thinks clearly. If pests are hiding in the nest, don't deal with them one by one. Just set the whole nest on fire. The scene turns into a flute. The poor girl is still watching those insects hanging like sausages on a pole. He's wondering when they'll finally let this guy go. Ashrat, what are you staring at? She barks. And Flute, in her pure and innocent way, thanks the man, saying we're full because of his sacrifice. Asarat's fuming, of course. He's raging. Don't mess with the great Asarat, you've humiliated me. If it gets resolved, first thing he'll do is send this girl to her grave. Threats are flying around. He's driven mad by my anger. The moment he breaks those chains, he dreams of ripping that damn Kratos apart with his own hands. Right then, he hears Kratos' voice and turns his head. Music, celebrations. Turns out it was planted by the second lightning pole. People are cheering, excited for more food. Asherat's eyes are wide as saucers. Did you get away or what? The poor soul is hoping they're done roasting like a doner kebab. But where is it? Kratos ties Fikemir up next to him and shocks them both at the same time. Ashrat has already gotten used to the situation. Resigned to fate. I'm just a little crisp, that's all. He's just chilling. Surtur's watching the view from the side shouting, "Don't do it, stop!" The world is hurting for Kemery. But will Kratos stop? He keeps pumping up the voltage. Fikemir screams in pain, braying in agony. The guy is literally living through hell. Keep the voltage going. Vykamer is finally enough. As he pleads, Kratos notices a raven in the sky. An old pro won't fall for that. It's a messenger bird. He realizes Saratogla has been spying and watching everything. That's the moment it's certain that scoundrel who eyed their crops will pay a very heavy price. A while later, with the sun scorching overhead, our flutist is scrambling in the field again, so cute. Ashrat turns and asks, "Honey, what are you trying to do over there? Those 4 generals helped the flute so much. I thought I'd step up and do my part." That's how they explain it. Asarat's saying, "Are you stupid, girl? Vykamer already took care of the whole field. Go do something useful at least." Flut runs over to Vykamer. He's asking if you prepared the soil and acted as a lightning rod for us at the same time. "You're really very kind," she adds. Vykamer blushes from shyness after receiving praise right after getting a beating. "You're actually the kind one, saying it was all worth it." But Ashrat intervenes again, warning with her venomous tongue. "You're not helping by just hanging around here. All I know is that potatoes get better once they hit the heat." Hearing this, Flute said, "Thanks, dear," he says, then runs away. He says he'll handle it right away. The spirit grumbles as the girl disappears from sight. What could a low-level loser demon like this possibly do? Back at the castle, Zephyros is worried. "Sir, I'm not sure if this plan will work." Saratol says he already knows it's a trap. "Why would he even come?" Kratos is laughing. "That idiot won't come himself anyway. First, he'll send his pawns, those pathetic soldiers of his. And I'm going to put them all through the meat grinder. Bale has already given the order. No one's getting out of here alive." Meanwhile, Saratol is watching everything, of course. "Did you think I was a fool, Kratos? Smirking like that. Did you think I'd just let my own soldiers be slaughtered?" Losing Fikamri hurts him, but he has only one goal. Drying up that field. He's giving the command to the Ghost Army. Go and wipe out those potatoes. Don't leave a single stalk standing. The ghosts are storming into the warehouse like crazy, but surprise. Kratos stands there waiting with his staff in hand. "I knew you'd show up," he says. "Welcome to the graveyard, you army of bastards." He remembers the first time he saw this guy in the game. That trauma. It doesn't forget how you panicked. Saratol's second elite unit is a total nuisance. Because their biggest trick is traveling in crowds. You know what the scariest part is? The moment you touch these damn ghosts, they stick like leeches and drain both your life and your equipped abilities. But our tricky Kratos had already found the bug to clear this level. Asking with a smirk. "Alright, who wants to be fried first?" The secret was simple. Use magic, especially lightning bolt. The ghosts realize they're trapped and start to panic. But Kratos had already let out that famous villainous laugh. It's too late. Now the real trap kicks in. The doors are slamming shut. A strange blood seal is locking everything up. And hold on, that blood is from Kratos' own veins. Kratos detonates a massive area attack, lighting up the place like a Christmas tree. He gives the guards that epic order. Dive in and finish them off. Demons are pouring out of every crevice. Those terrible creatures with failing ghost forms are now being crushed like cornered rats. And it's heading toward a painful end. Kratos can't help but polish his ego while taking in the view. Man, this plan was total Alpha Demon King genius. He even goes as far as saying it out loud. Maybe she thinks she truly belongs to this chaotic world. The only problem was that a few stubborn little souls hadn't been grilled yet. They were buzzing around, shooting lightning bolts everywhere. Right in the middle of that chaos, a flute pops out of the potato pile like a surprise egg. Kratos' gaze shifts there. One of the spirits flies at the girl like a bullet to suck away her youth. While his dad is in the background screaming like in a horror movie. Even though Kratos is about to lose his mind because no one's doing their job right, he still finds himself trying to save that girl again. But the lightning won't make it. In that moment, his reflexes kick in and he throws the electrically charged potato, yes, you heard that right, a potato, at the girl. He probably knows it won't work. But when the potato hits the spirit's head with a bonk, something strange happens in the game's code. The ghost is trying to suck the soul out of a potato like an idiot, and damn, it's actually working. The potatoes sprout instantly where they sit and grow massive leaves.
Sure.
As the other ghosts flee in panic, Kratos stands there in shock. That's the moment it clicks, and he has a major epiphany. These ghosts age everything they touch. So they fast-forwarded the potato's biological clock to grow it. Kratos grabs the flute right away and says she's doing a great job. While Speed quickly scrambles away, Kratos turns to the others to make that big announcement. Don't fear Sargot anymore, that era is over now, everyone. From now on, we're not on the defense, we're on the offensive. The scene changes, and in the next part we find the poor vermin crucified, staring at the sky with empty eyes. He's having an existential crisis on his own. Who am I? Where is this? What kind of hellhole am I in? But look at that sun, it's shining so beautifully. The little bugger mumbles that he's happy just because he gets to look at this every day. The only problem is his stomach is growling and sticking to his back from hunger. Right then, Flute pops up like the happiest being on earth, chirping that everything is going perfectly. They've harvested tons of potatoes, and Kratos is building a new army. But the moment the insect sees food, it starts shaking like an addict having a withdrawal fit. He's shaking his head like crazy. Flute feels sorry for him and says she'll give him just a small piece, then tosses a tiny potato his way. The potato lands right between your eyes. Though Astrid screams that she'll kill him, the girl fires off her last 3 potatoes like a machine gun. 2 in the eyes, 1 right in the mouth. Even if it hurts, the taste is so unique that just 1 bite feels like heaven. Bing! Kratos gains another happiness point. After all that, he manages to get his score up to 302. He doesn't care who gave the last point, the more, the better. He needs every single point for the Sargatol raid. He gathers the army and gives the order to prepare. As they're about to reach the target, a few ghosts shout in panic and try to cut the bridge. They're slicing through the bridge without hesitation. But wait, would Kratos just stop there? The guy just jumps into the void. They're shouting, "Idiot," behind his back. But there's one thing they don't know. Kratos is about to use the legendary but slide glitch to clip through the wall. He's turning his back. 1 look, 2 looks, and bam! The guy's already appeared up there. The 2 ghosts freak out and bolt. While they run away crying out how terrifying this demon is, Kratos smirks. Everything went exactly according to script. He signals Zephyros and springs forward. Sargator wags his finger from a distance, ordering them to finish off the lone Kratos. Kratos lunges forward, either fearlessly or madly. But of course, he's making that same mistake again. Adam is literally the type of guy to win with 1 button. The spirits are trying to catch him. Just as we caught him, Kratos sinks into the floor. When he finally resurfaces, he finds himself completely surrounded. The spirits surround you, mocking that your mana will run out even if you're a demon king. But Kratos is very calm. Listen up, kids, I'm a veteran player of this game. And right at that moment, it starts raining potatoes from the sky. Yes, it's a total carb bomb. The moment potatoes touch spirits, ghosts are absorbed and turned into fertilizer. Zephyros watches in admiration. I wasn't sure this time, but damn it. The Demon Lord's plan worked like clockwork again. He remembers Kratos' simple explanation. We'll gather all the enemies together and rain potatoes down on them. That's it. And it actually worked. Plus, since Kratos had beaten the game 19 times, he knew the secret shortcut to Sargot like the back of his hand. He had memorized every crack, every hidden corner. The memory of exploring that part of the map is still fresh. He had seen a strange structure. The texture quality was poor. He wondered what this was doing here. He attacked there and bingo. He found the secret path. That's how he discovered the cave leading straight to Sargatola. Plus, he found a transformation potion there too. And a compressed soul, made of countless corpses. Who knows what it's for? Down on Earth, the demons are celebrating. They finally found something to eat. And right then, Kratos suddenly remembers those words his grandmother told him. Look at this guy, it's like he's starving to death. The girl promised to make dinner that night, but of course, she ended up being shipped off to the hospital in an ambulance. The guy is a total emotional wreck now. The maniac is shouting that he'll flatten anyone who stands in the way of his desire to feed people. Suddenly he's all hyped up, saying, Seraphiel is strong, boss, let me dive in too. But Kratos claps back instantly. No, your job is to carry potatoes. The bossing around is my job, kid. At that moment, Seraphiel prays to the high spirit of ice. He screams for more monsters to fill his glorious cold. He's spreading terror and trying to raise an army. But with a boot to the face, the magic is cut short. Like a confused duck, he's asking when Kratos even got there. Kratos just shrugs. None of your business. I'm here for the pest control. As for Seraphiel, he groans that coming alone was foolish and thinking he could win was a mistake. Clearly, this poor soul has never seen the true power of the man he's facing. But Kratos saw. And he saw it exactly 19 times. And back in those old days, when Seraphiel first went hunting, he was already sickened by this damn power. He traveled over hills and valleys, purging them all until the very last soul. The creatures would slowly gather inside this strange crystal and drain their souls dry. After Seraphiel absorbed enough power, she would summon even more demons. But only after finishing the errands would he show his true talent. A hurricane spins in the sky, and Seraphiel would say, "You are strong, Kratos, I'll give you that." Then he smirks and says, "That's exactly why I'll beat you." And boom! He'd turn into Kratos 2.0. Yeah, since this guy's a late-game boss, he could copy enemy stats and mimic their abilities. Naturally, you'd be incredibly strong by the time you face him, which would make him just as much of a nightmare to deal with. But this time, the stats he copied belonged to Kratos' current pathetic state. And let's be honest, ours wasn't that strong yet. The moment Seraphiel attacks, Kratos opens his inventory and starts putting his points into agility. He dodges the first strike like a knife through butter and buries a punch into Seraphiel's gut. Seraphiel swings again, but this time Kratos powers through and strikes back. Fist to fist. Seraphiel, that's impossible. He's shouting, "How are you already at full power?" Kratos says if you're gonna work in agriculture, you gotta be sharp as a whip, kid. Seraphiel cuts his hand, trying to trigger a lightning spell with his blood. But Kratos has already maxed out his magic and mental stamina, and he's even striking his own lightning. And of course, Kratos' lightning is more solid. It rips through Seraphiel, turning the guy into a literal pile of sludge. This thing, collapsed in a gooey mess, looks like it's done for. Then the system intervenes. With all attributes earned, there's now permission to summon the throne and the farmer. And yeah, this thing is like a Game of Thrones chair, but instead of swords, it's covered in rakes, hay, watering cans, and all sorts of farming tools. Kratos' eyes are glowing. Finally found some decent equipment. But the mud on the ground grumbles that we're not done yet. Kratos sighs. There's always a second phase anyway. Seraphiel transforms into an ancient dragon. Kratos steps back, looking impressed. Alright, that piece of shit's glass bar really looks like a beast. But ours has a plan, of course. Right then, Honey dives in with a flying kick. He brought his whole crew along too. Kratos smiles and says, "Bless you, you look like you've jumped right out of the game's final scene." Seraphiel pauses for a moment. She even got teary-eyed and asked if we could talk it out. It's not like that, but the whole team is ganging up on him. Even demons and farmers are jumping in. They're brutally beating them up with kicks and punches. Watching them, Kratos thinks these are the same people who were starving just a short while ago. Then he decides it's the perfect time to call for the throne. In the middle of the sky, clouds begin to swirl, and that massive throne descends from the heavens toward the top of Seraphiel. Boom! Total extinction. Kratos freezes in his tracks. The demons look into the crater and cheer, seeing Seraphiel is crushed. They say we never imagined the Demon King could be this savage, finishing the job by smashing a throne on the enemy's head. It's the first time they see something like this. Kratos has nothing to say. This definitely wasn't the plan, but he's joining the celebration anyway. Now that's what I call a perfect ending. Near the crater, the farmer begins to glow softly. Its appearance is becoming quite adorable. The whole land has turned into fertile soil. The potatoes are ready, the biggest threat is gone. Time to start the planting season. But just as they are wrapping things up, Seraphiel's crystal begins to vibrate. Kratos' system reports that he has defeated this boss for the 20th time. Kratos notices. Yeah, the game doesn't forget, man. And as a secret reward, a hidden event is triggered. A soul trapped inside that crystal. Depending on how he's treated, he's about to wake up. A thick mist begins to spread from the crystal. Kratos approaches with cautious steps to understand what's going on. Since this is her world, something cute was bound to come out of it, of course. Or let's just say, not that cute. We're facing a dragon, but little rascal keeps that creepy grin on his face even when he's asking for a T-bone steak. As Kratos approaches with that famous mob boss swagger, the tiny creature blinks, wondering if this imposing man is its father. When Kratos picked up the pup, the only sound heard was the chants of, "Steak! Steak!" Poor little guy was having the time of his life. Because my poor little one thought he'd be fatherless and all alone when he opened his eyes to this world. Until Kratos looked at her and said it's very cute. When the team cheered about having a feast, the dragon already started trembling with fear. While everyone shouted that they would fill their bellies tonight, the dragon sweated with tension, and Kratos turned to him with that terrible face and spoke. "You need to grow up before you can win." The poor dragon thought it was over right then. He was absolutely sure he was being fattened like a sacrificial lamb, only to end up under the butcher's knife. But just then, Kratos paused. Looking ahead, he saw the entire demon realm gathered, jumping for joy to celebrate their king's return. Families are waving to their children, a strange joy filled the air. Everything was so healthy and happy that the little dragon realized something was wrong, that the energy was strangely positive. Even demons didn't seem that scary until I saw Kratos' face from below. Hours later, the dragon huddled in the corner of the room, trembling like a leaf. Kratos was staring intently at him. In that split second their eyes met, the dragon froze in fear. He was as sure as his own name that they were just waiting for them to grow a bit more and get fattened up. Yet Kratos was only trying to figure out what a dragon eats. He had 1,000 questions in his head. He assumed such creatures fed only on pure gemstones or rare exotic materials. And finding such things in this wasteland was impossible. Suddenly Zephyros burst in and said things weren't going as expected. To make a proper bed, the soil had to be mounded, and the ground needed to be rich and dense. What was the problem? The whole area was completely filled with rocks. The team was exhausted from carrying the stones, yet enough space still hadn't been cleared. Little Steak in the corner thought his fate was sealed. He believed he would be worked to death here. Forget the name T-Bone, from now on we'll call him Steak. It sounds much cooler and tastier. Kratos looked around and thought that this wasn't a field, but a coal mine. If they kept wasting their energy like this, their supplies would run out before the potatoes even sprouted. And when hunger struck again, production would completely collapse. His nerves were shot. He lamented, wishing he were one of those protagonists with special powers from the novels. He's one of those types who solves everything just like that. But all he did was go hungry. Just then, she noticed the flute working hard in the corner. Seeing the girl digging into the soil with her bare hands, he realized he had to stop whining. He had to find a way to solve this problem. Suddenly someone cried out that a razor wind was coming. It was one of those random and deadly natural disasters Kratos had forgotten. It turned everyone it caught into mincemeat in seconds. Kratos immediately ordered everyone to hide behind the rocks. The pressure was unbearable, even from a distance. These winds meant death for all kinds of agriculture. And of course, according to the script, Flute malfunctioned and started running towards her father, Azeroth, the lightning rod. Kratos and her father called out, but the girl had already dashed off. Ours threw Biftiki into his father's arms and charged into the storm, roaring that whoever followed would die. Bale screamed that this was suicide, that it was too dangerous, and begged them to turn back. Of course, Kratos was aware of the danger too, but he couldn't afford to lose his lightning rods and a rookie worker on the first day. While Flute struggled to save her father, Azeroth shouted, "Leave me, get out of here!" not wanting his daughter to die. Kratos dove in, thinking this farm life was really no different from going to war. He told the girl to move aside, charged the lightning rod with a flying kick, and broke the mechanism. It hit the ground hard. The wind was so fierce it cut through everyone's skin like a razor. Flute tried to film her dad, but he told her to stop. Even the 4 heavenly kings couldn't have pulled him out of there. Then she suddenly pulled back. Kratos grabbed the girl and hoisted the lightning rod onto his shoulder. Watching from afar, Biftek could feel the resistance in the air and realized his father wasn't that strong. Yet he ran with all his might, risking everything for others. Kratos stumbled. The wind shears were so intense that he dropped his load and collapsed to the ground. That's when Little Steak decided to step in. He spread his wings and flew into the eye of the storm, stood right before the tornado, took a deep breath, and spat an icy disaster into the heart of the wind. Semi-conscious, Kratos realized Biftiki used his power to slow the wind. But this power was too much for a baby dragon. The tornado was still advancing, but just then, the team arrived. He got everyone away from danger. In the next episode, we'll wake up in the castle. Kratos is lying in bed in a miserable state. With the air stone cold, Hartog and Sergi slide in. Or are they actually trying to send our boy to his grave? While the Demon King lies helpless, Hartog reveals his plan like a scavenging hyena. He'd separate his head from his body in a single stroke. And Sergi is more than willing to go along with this evil plan. After that, they'll deal with Baal and Azarat and decide among themselves who will be the new Demon King. Hartog accepts the terms. For now, a dirty alliance has already been formed. Just as they're about to move, that damn door creaks. They stood at the head of the bed like executioners, but suddenly, both of them freeze in their tracks. It's like they've seen Medusa. Kratos' face doesn't look like someone who's sound asleep at all. He has such an evil, such a cruel expression on his face that it makes you question life. Or was this psychopath awake the whole time? Is he watching them? Still, they push through the fear and take a step toward their destiny. That was their only chance. Just as knives are about to be drawn, our loyal servant Baal and the unfortunate Azarat enter the scene. Azarat literally looks like he came from the depths of hell. The poor guy's charred like a coal, getting struck like a lightning rod for 10 episodes. Baal says the boss is sleeping. Don't wake him from his nap. The warning appears, but anyone seeing Kratos' terrifying face would have to be blind to call that sleep. What kind of blackout is this, man? Baal is making open threats. If you accidentally wake him up while trying to kill him, you can't even imagine what will happen to you. Hartog can't take it anymore and snaps. I get Bali, that musclehead, but Azarat, what are you doing with this psycho dressed like a farmer? Azarat puts his pride aside and answers. An exception, just this once. I love how he talks like he actually has a choice. He says next time he'll kill Kratos with his own hands, but for now, he owes him his life. Hartog is still worried about the potatoes. He says they've only brought trouble. Our guy is acting like a prophet of doom, saying if this harvest plan fails, we'll all be starving to death. Now Azarat's trying to lecture us like a philosopher. That's exactly how the system works, kid. If you don't want to starve, you've got to put your soul on the line. The man literally says he'd rather die on the battlefield than while hoeing a field, but he's forced to accept his fate. Hartog, you're both total idiots. With that, he huffs and puffs and walks out. But when leaving, it's that classic. You're going to regret this. He doesn't forget to deliver his tirade. Then, that long-awaited yawn is heard. The moment Kratos opens his eyes and sees Azarat, our charcoal man panics and goes on the defensive. Don't misunderstand, Demon King. He's just talking nonsense about coming to pay his debt. Kratos narrows his eyes and gives that famous look like, "What's up? Why is my lightning rod walking around and talking?" Azarat hesitates for half a second and boom, the poor guy gets shocked again. Next thing you know, his clothes are gone and he's being dragged back to the post again. Kratos is just keeping his cool, like, let's get to work. Baal reporting in now. Those damn rocks in the field are almost cleared. Turns out our windmill Zephyros has a hand in this too. What did Kratos see when he went to check? Zephyros is barking orders at the people. Ours immediately asks, where did all this rubble go? Zephyros points to the sky, and there it is. Our little steak is soaring through the air with huge rocks in his mouth. It carries the rocks far away. Doesn't watching this little guy work like a laborer remind you of those slave creatures from those famous fantasy stories? But Steak is thinking to himself. I might not be big enough to fight a tornado, but at least I can help by carrying stones. Oh, poor thing. Kratos catches it in midair, holds it in his arms, and starts petting it with that slightly psychopathic smile. He treats the animal like a classic movie villain's cat. But Steak's happy with this. He even seems to be enjoying it. Kratos' confidence is sky-high as his plans are working perfectly. Even if those razor-sharp winds return, he doesn't care. He's got an ace like Steak in his hand now. All they have to do is anticipate the attack. Zephyros says he's taking the juice from the potatoes given to the workers as a reward. He's asking if we should stock up more. Kratos shakes his head. He gives an economics lesson, saying a farm's top enemy is natural disasters, and the second is cost. These are the two walls we need to tear down. At that moment, he's taking off the display helmet at the castle. Wait, what's that? Are we looking at a knockout elf girl? Yeah, his only flaw is smelling like manure because he works in the fields all day. And then there's the small detail of him having 6 arms, of course. But let's be honest, I know some of you would be totally fine with even this. It's nothing a good bath can't fix, right? Right then, there's a pounding at the door. Sergi recognizes the voice instantly. It's none other than our nuisance, the Demon King. The girl snaps right away, saying she has nothing to talk to you about. And Kratos politely asks from behind the door for them to open it. Sergi is stubborn. He says he doesn't want to talk to you. But Kratos insists we can't resolve this without meeting face to face. And he drops the bombshell. I'm coming in. Exhibition's ready. Just as I'm about to yell, "Don't break the door down, you animal." It's already too late. Of course, he doesn't break the door. He's using that glitch exploitability again. Suddenly he's right next to the girl, and Sergi is in shock. Just as she was about to say, "Don't you know better than to barge into a lady's room?" Kratos suddenly drops to his knees. The girl's brain is glitching at that moment. Kratos hits deep, saying he's nothing without you. Sergi freezes for a second, then his cheeks turn red as a tomato. But Kratos has other plans in mind. If I can save even a few pennies, I won't just kneel, I'll crawl. All they want is free labor and sharp knives. And Sergi's playing with his hair, going into princess mode. How can I say no to you when you ask me like this? While Kratos just stares blankly. He has no idea it's turning into romance. The guy's brain is wired strictly for agriculture and economics. It looks like this girl's anger management mechanism is completely broken. In front of a massive pile of potatoes, the Demon King spoke to him. He says all these tubers should be cut in half for planting. Reality hits the exhibition like a slap in the face. He was deceived. Even so, this could be considered a promotion of sorts. At least she was giving birth to cute little potatoes instead of shoveling manure now. But of course, Kratos expects surgical precision from him. He wanted a perfect cut, with the sprouted ends facing opposite directions. He throws 2 into the air and challenges him. Before the girl can even object, he draws his sword and slices the potatoes in midair. Kratos leaps back in surprise. Did you seriously cut it that clean? There's pure admiration in your eyes. He turns and tells him, she was right, he's the only one who can handle this job. A total master of manipulation, the king of psychology. And poor Sergi is completely defenseless against that kind of praise. But he quickly shakes it off and comes to his senses. He swears he won't fall for these tricks again. Until she gave me that look. Until he gently grabbed her wrist. Then he takes one more step closer. The girl's face is bright red. She's wiping her sword in shame, polishing the metal. Sergi asks in a trembling voice, "What are you doing, Demon King?" Kratos answers, "He's got a bit of potato juice on him. Of course I have to clean it." Sergi's mind is a mess. Is this guy crazy? That look. Why does it feel so hot? Why is it so intimate and intense? But Kratos calmly thinks to himself that a clean sword is essential for hygiene. After all, this girl was just giving birth to feces a moment ago. Then he asks once more. The one he can trust for this mission. He emphasizes that she's the one. Sergi blushes, turns around to hide her cheeks, and says okay. He'll help, but only this once. And this is what goes through their mind. This stupid Demon King really can't do anything without me. The man starts running like a happy child instantly. Shouting that he's great, he goes to get water. They'll be cutting all night long. With potatoes flying through the air, Hartog hears a sentence from somewhere nearby. Don't hold my hand like that, spread your arms out. Taking a secret peek at the stage. Our Demon King is helping his precious little maid. And Hartog gets it wrong immediately. She thinks Sergi has become a brainwashed slave, volunteering to serve this man just because of a few kind words. Meanwhile, Azurat is still under the sun. He questions the meaning of life, his goals, and what the future holds as a lightning rod. Right then, the flute shows up and says they can play the potato-tossing game again. Azurat screams for this low-class brat to get lost. He swears he'll eat him alive as soon as he's free. But the girl keeps showering him with potatoes. And once again Hartog watches. Now rest assured, Azurat is finished. There is no escape for him. Suddenly someone shouts, the potatoes are here. Baal and Zephyrus enter, carrying piles of potatoes. Hartog is just staring blankly, even Baal. There's no hope left, especially for someone with such a below-average intelligence. The demons have gathered around the exhibition, thanking us non-stop. They say none of this would be possible without it. The girl standing weirdly, telling them to cut it, mumbling she wouldn't do this for anyone else. Hartog was watching, and he could see that look in her eyes. That soft, flickering gaze. This was not the face of a cold-blooded demon general. It was a total disgrace to see demons crying over potato seeds. They should have been ashamed. Everyone in that place was a total moron. But he, Hartog, the intellectual peak of the demon race, would have snatched that throne from those fools. Kratos tells everyone to keep planting, as something great will soon sprout from this soil. And when that time comes, they'll need to cut the sprouts of some plants. Ball volunteers for the honey cutting, but Kratos tells him to shut his mouth and continues explaining. He explains that each potato they plant can produce between 3 and 6 sprouts. Then he asks them, "Do you think more sprouts or fewer sprouts are better?" The demons are screaming, more of them, of course. Kratos says they were wrong, that less is better. Hartog's eye is twitching. This conversation is purely pathetic. The demons are asking why less is better. It makes no sense. More sprouts mean more food, right? Hartog can't take it anymore. You guys are really brainless. If too many sprouts grow, they'll compete for nutrients, and the nutritional value of the potatoes you eat will plummet. Kratos is turning to her, 1 second. How do you know that? Hartog answers, this is extremely basic information. If all the sprouts feed off the same potato, the result is weak. It's that simple. Kratos nods and asks, so, what's the ideal number of sprouts? Hartog rolls his eyes twice, of course. Why are you asking that? In a perfect scenario, 1 would be ideal, but with 2. If 1 dies, at least you'll have a backup. Kratos tells him to continue. What happens next? Hartog complains that everything is too obvious. Now that the soil is super healthy, other plants will try to drain the nutrients. So they need to make sure everything goes to the potatoes. Simply put, they need to rip out everything that isn't a potato. Even someone with half a brain can solve it in a minute. Kratos claps his hands and everyone applauds. Because he says there's a genius among them. Everyone is cheering. Dahi! 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 Hartog is about to lose his mind, even though his mother always called him a fool. Are those tears streaming down your face? The guy is literally crying his eyes out. Even he doesn't understand why he's grinning and muttering the name of that maniac Kratos. Finally, I've found a brilliant mind among the demon race. Starting today, our friend here, Hartog, will be the head of the Farmers' Union. Hartog can't believe his ears. Is this a joke? The guy's entire skill tree is built for theft and murder, yet they're giving him a hoe. But will Kratos stop? Quickly turns around and roars at the crowd. Show this elite member of our race the respect he deserves, damn it. The crowd's all fired up, shouting in chorus. Illit! 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 But the serial killer inside Hartigan is itching to butcher them all right then and there. But no, instead of shedding blood, he's laying down the law, telling us to step up and listen closely to what he has to say. In the background, Kratos looks at his work with a devious smirk. The plan worked perfectly. The demons are in a festive mood. Our psychopath just won another mind game. Bagel tapped into that crave for attention, scanned his neglected heart like an X-ray, and managed to turn him into a loyal dog. It gave a companion to Azura, who swore he'd never have a friend. It even softened that violent prayer of his until it was like cotton. She tamed this poor guy, who'd never been loved, and gave Hartoga the validation and sense of being seen that he'd sought his whole life. These demons are all monsters on the outside, but inside, they're fragile porcelain dolls. Thanks to these therapy sessions, Kratos earns exactly 200 happiness points for his household, plus a bonus skill is unlocked. But Kratos tilts his head in confusion. He doesn't remember ever opening this lock before. The ability to see the future of anything he looks at. For now, it only covers the next 6 hours, and it's not just limited to living things. He can even see the fate of objects. And at that moment, a light bulb goes off. With all that power we have, what do you think makes him so happy? Now it will be able to predict the weather. Come to the screen. The next episode begins in the Lost Lands, that eerie place between the demon territory and the human realm. This place is notorious as a village of exile. And guess who's there? Get ready for your eyes to bleed. Lloyd with Javier's hair and Javier with Lloyd's hair. Oh my god, Javier looks like, well, something, I just can't bring myself to say what. And she has the nerve to thank Lloyd for taking good care of her. Lloyd looks like a total wreck as usual, but his ambition is still there. He says he'll work hard, rake in the cash, and wrap everyone around his finger. At least his character hasn't changed, he's still the same opportunist. Out of the blue, Javier turns to our old chef and asks that crucial question. Is he thinking of returning to the Demon Kingdom with them? Our blonde friend pauses, looking confused. Like you said, his memory's been reset. He doesn't know who he is or anyone around him. He's a total stranger. To top it off, the first people he met didn't exactly seem like the let's be buddies type. I mean, who would ever embrace someone like this? Our guy in the plastic grocery bag outfit takes a look and shuts him down. Maybe you start by changing those rags, huh? They're setting out. But no matter how many things he wraps around himself, that damn outfit still shows through underneath. Deep down, Kimchi wants to tear this disgraceful thing apart. But there's a chilling situation here. The clothes won't come off. It's a total body horror film, as if it's stuck to the skin, becoming a part of the flesh. Before leaving, Havid tells one of the men she'll talk to the king and ask him to help this village. Because living a life in exile here is pure hell. Watching all this, Kimchi can't hide his surprise. This kid really has a noble soul. Even in this ominous place at the bottom of the demon realm, he's putting his own life on the line for others. And he's not condescending at all. He's a real stand-up guy. This situation pushes Kimchi into a period of deep questioning. So, what kind of an idiot was I back then? Judging by his fragmented memories, he was a walking death machine, gutting anyone in his path. And now he has no idea what he's good for in life other than killing. A total void. If we go back to the demon realm, everything there